What's going on, guys? I'm carrying on with the best of this Reddit AMA. We had a lot of good content on it, so go ahead and check out the weight room subreddit. I did an AMA this Wednesday on the 21st, and it just went really well. A lot of really good questions. I was really expected to be on my toes. I was waiting for some like scandalous questions, and none of that came up. So thank you guys for that. So the questions were all pretty good and insightful. So I tried to give good, insightful responses, but a lot of them I could actually talk about a lot more. So I figured I'd share some of these with you and go down the list. With this one, this was a really good one. I like questions about how to train kids because there's a lot of misconceptions. On the one hand, you get parents that think kids are made of glass, and if they do a squat with a barbell before the age of 19, they're going to stunt their growth. On the other hand, you get overeager sports parents that want to just brutalize their kids because they're desperate to have them place at whatever CIF championships they're getting ready for. So this question was from Jub's dad. I love Reddit usernames. My 13-year-old son has been lifting with me for the past 1.5 years and he loves it. So far, we've been focused on compound lifts with lots of volume and less intensity, so 5 by 8 to 12 per lift with 2 upper body and 2 lower body days per week. I've been letting him auto-regulate his weights, which typically has him doing 1 to 2 light sets, followed by 2 to 3 medium heavy sets, and a final light set. He's been making good progress strength-wise with this as well as packing on weight. So what would you add, subtract, change about this approach and why? Any changes I should be planning for in the upcoming years? My thinking is to have him spend his growing years focused on hypertrophy and only transition to a more strength focused approach once he's done growing and filling out, but input would be appreciated. So already we have a dad who's very thoughtful. He's not just having his 13-year-old do whatever. He knows he likes training and wants to foster that. He even put in here when he said a strength-focused approach in parentheses, if that's what he wants. He's interested in his son enjoying what he's doing, but also kind of guiding him to kind of a better way of doing things. So it's not what most of us do as teenagers, what I did, which is go in and do what the fuck ever and just cross your fingers and hope for the best. Oddly enough, somehow we still get strong doing that way, but it stands to reason that there would be less flat tires, so to speak, less setbacks, and a lot more growth if we had a little structure early on. So initially I commended him. That was a solid approach. He's emphasizing base building by doing, repeating sets of high reps. I think that is absolutely great. That is going to pack on mass faster. That is going to get him used to capacity work. He's not going to be one of these guys that constantly makes jokes that over 3 reps is cardio. He's going to have a sense of pain tolerance. He's going to know what that type of fatigue feels like. And he's going to know that he doesn't have to pile on a bunch of weight onto the bar to see progress, which I think is extremely important. And all of this work is going to set him up down the road. The first time this kid goes into doing singles, doubles, and triples, it's going to be just to the moon. It's going to be crazy. So I'm a big fan of what he's doing. I comment when lifters are getting their feet wet, the best program isn't the one that looks like what your favorite powerlifter is doing. It's what grows you the fastest while reinforcing good habits. Higher rep and high volume submax work checks those boxes, and I firmly believe that. Now, that's not to say that you can't grow a teenager using higher intensity or more specific low rep work. I mean, surely Olympic lifters and whatever kids get into powerlifting programs in other parts of the world, they probably follow a more focused, high intensity approach, but they're working under coaches who know what they're doing. They know how to manipulate that so it doesn't turn into maxing out every week. And that's really my critique with those approaches. It's not that it can't be done or it's not valid. It's really in the more narrow tightrope that you have to walk and how much more specialization you need as a coach to be able to make the right recommendations. It's harder. People screw it up more. It's like dieting. The best diet isn't the hypothetical diet program that if you follow is going to take you, to the Olympia stage. For the average person, the best diet is going to be the one that they can actually comply with and follow. So if you write a diet like this is a perfect diet I wrote for you, it's all egg whites all day and nothing else, nobody's going to follow that. You have to account for compliance. You have to account for not screwing up. And if you can do that, you're going to have a superior program. So some things that I offered from a psychology standpoint, kids will stay engaged longer if there's some variety and some semi-regular testing that shows progress. Just something to look forward to. That's a carrot at the end of the stick. Get through this monotonous block, and then in 4 weeks, we get a test. You get to see a new 1 rep max. And that builds an association with delaying gratification, but also having something to look forward to and chip away at. And that's really important. And it gets them thinking in terms of a block type structure. Not that they have to follow a block periodization template, but thinking about chunking your training into different periods and knowing what it's like to go through each one and actually grow. That is one of the best habits you can instill in a young lifter instead of just gonzo workouts that are hard for the sake of it. I recommended he might want to look into incorporating some block structure around 5 weeks in length, and plan small changes in movement selection, rep ranges, and threshold specificity. Again, just to get his mind wrapped around that type of structure, get him used to that cadence of training, but also to include some novelty. It's going to set up good programming habits, but it's also going to provide freshness every few weeks, even if it is just a subtle change in accessory work or a subtle change in reps. It's not that young lifters need periodization. It's that they can grow from anything. So why not just have them do the thing that's going to set them up for good habits further down the road? And that's my take on it. So I don't really like this idea of trying to maximize novice gains by running an only novice program of shit you can't get away with as an intermediate. None of us really did that. Not a lot of people do that. Most of us got good just following whatever and keeping our fingers crossed and growing. It was just hard work and stubbornness that got us there. So we can absolutely reinforce these principles early on, and I definitely think it's a net asset as time goes on. And then eventually to taper into strength-specific work, you don't have to ditch what you're doing and run all the way to the other side of the football field with only singles, doubles, and triples and only a few token powerlifting-specific movements. You can start to incorporate more elements of specificity by just spending a little more time with the main lift. Deprioritize isolation work or fluff. That doesn't mean don't do it, but you can do less of it or phase out some of the stuff you feel like is less specific, and that goes in the recovery basket. You can just work up to a top set. You already see that mirrored in a lot of powerlifting programs where you work up to a top set and then everything else is back off volume followed by accessory volume. Well, it's super easy to follow a bodybuilding program, and all you do is just hit a top set first. If you're 13 years old, I wouldn't go straight to a top single, but I would do something like a top 6, 5, 4 reps, RPE 8, make sure the RPE stays low. They're not maximal sets. Again, because you want to get comfortable with good habits at this new rep range because it's different than this old rep range. So don't just have them start breaking down right off the bat. And that gives you play in the joints. That gives you room to taper up. If you feel good for it, add 5 pounds the next week. Or work a different rep range for the top set. There's a lot of options with this. It's just so easy to slowly start to incorporate that little change in transition. It doesn't have to be as aggressive when you're new. But anyways, if you do that, you do start to incorporate that work again. Psychologically, he'll be more invested. He'll associate all the work he did early on with the strength gains he's getting from the lower rep work later down the road. So that's a win. And you will move him forward at an appropriate pace where he'll grow without lighting himself up. So all positives, but it sounds like this guy has a handle on it. I appreciate these types of questions because this is important. This is what most young lifters need to hear. Any questions, agreement, disagreement, leave it in the comment box. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.